Recorded Books and RB Digital present Dark of the Moon by P.C. Hodgell, narrated by Jennifer O'Donnell. Prologue. The story so far. Some 30 millennia ago, the entity known as Paramel Darkling first breached the barrier between the outer void and the series of parallel universes called the Chain of Creation. It began to devour universe after universe, invading each one in turn by way of the threshold world that linked it to the adjacent dimensions. To meet this threat, the three-faced god forged together three races from different threshold worlds into the Kenserath. Then, apparently, he abandoned them. The three people, Highborn, Kendar, and cat-like Arenken, found themselves alone, pitted against a foe too great for them. And so the long, bitterly fought retreat began from world to world. As the fighting skills of the Kenserath increased, its number dwindled, and its bitterness grew. The three people felt betrayed by their god, and yet unable to refuse the role that he had forced on them. Honor alone upheld them. Then one man rebelled. Jerrodon, Master of North, High Lord of the Kenserath, offered himself and his followers to Paramel Darkling in exchange for immortality. He persuaded his twin sister and consort, Gemethiel Dreamweaver, to dance out the souls of the Kenser host. On that night, 2/3 of it fell. The remnant fled to the next threshold world, Rethilion. At this point, the Kenserath has been on Rethilion nearly 3,000 years. In all that time, there have been no major clashes with Paramel Darkling, though the Paramel Darkling and Jerrodon have taken over part of the planet, and the Highborn have long since begun to fight among themselves. Some 33 years ago, one of these power struggles, combined with a major battlefield defeat in the White Hills, led to the exile of the then High Lord, Ganth of North, called the Grey Lord. Ganth settled in the Haunted Lands, near the barrier between the Freelands and those controlled by the Paramel Darkling. He took his consort, a mysterious highborn lady, whom he brought back one day out of the hills near the barrier, seemingly out of nowhere. She bore him twins, Torison and Gemethiel, called Jame. Then she disappeared back into the hills. Ganth didn't particularly want a daughter, especially when it became clear that Jame had inherited Shanir blood, which linked her, as it had both the master and her namesake, to the oldest, most feared powers of her race. Ganth cursed her and drove her out of the keep. Jame crossed the barrier into Paramel Darkling. She was gone from Rethilion for at least 10 years of her life, apparently spending most of that time in Jerrodon's house. Then she fled back to her homeworld, bringing with her an ancient object of power called the book bound in pale leather, but no clear memory of what had happened to her during all that lost time. She found that on Rethilion, more than 20 years had passed. She also found her old home, but now it was only a broken shell containing the dead. Her twin brother alone wasn't there. She took their father's ring and his sword, Kinslayer, and went southward to look for Torison. What she came across first, though, was the city of Titastagon, where she was delayed for more than a year. During her stay, she became involved in the Thieves' Guild, where she made a name for herself as the Talisman, and with an inn called the Resubtir, where she discovered that she had not only brought the book out of Paramel Darkling, but fighting and dancing skills that drew on her Shanir blood in alarming ways. The latter ability proved especially useful, however, when Ishtir, renegade priest of her own god, went mad, and she had to dance down the rampant power of his temple before it could destroy all Titastagon. At the same time, war broke out in the Thieves' Guild, and Jame found herself accused of the guild lord's murder. She fled the city with her ounce Joran.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.